Hey, this is Jordan Belfort, the real Wolf of Wall Street, and you're listening to The Anthony Rogers Show.
Welcome back to the greatest show in the universe. Today we're going to talk to an author who wrote the book All in Her Head. It's on Amazon, and her name is Sunny Mera. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Really good. The link will be in the YouTube below if you're watching this video, and then it'll be in the link on the audio stream you're listening to as well if you want to check out her book that we're about to talk about after you hear it and stuff. So thank you for doing this, by the way, too. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. You're my first podcast.
That's awesome. That's exciting. So this book, I mean, the about's really interesting. This is so how long did you write this?
It took me about 10 years of writing to really get it to a place where it was ready for publishing. I started off with Swinson Book Development early in the process, and then went with She Writes Press, which is a feminist press out of Berkeley, California.
That's awesome. So are these? Let me read a little bit for the listeners so they know, the about more or less on the Amazon description. I guess as a young girl growing up in the Midwest, Sunny experiences the shame and stigma of a scandal when her father is banned from church for having an affair with the pastor's best friend's wife. As Sunny, which is, I feel like we have to stop. Is this based on a real story? Like this is you're telling me?
Yeah, this is as I remember it, my life story. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. And then, as 7 years older, she begins to build a life she's always wanted. She marries, buys a house, enrolls in graduate school. Soon has a baby on the way, but when she experiences the psychological phenomenon of orgasmic labor, it triggers a chain of bizarre events, and she gradually descends into a world of delusion and paranoia. As Sunny struggles to separate from the unreal, she relies upon her friends and family to ground her in truth and love and keep her from going over the edge of madness. That's a great description, but I know it's actually your life, so I feel weird commenting on someone's life. But as far as the wording is great on that. Though, tell us a little bit about this. I guess your.
So it's I kind of consider it the story is like an onion, and there are 4 primary rabbit holes we can take to explore the onion and get to know all of it. There's the trauma and organic mental illness. There's the political scandal or possible interference with foreign power. There's the hackers or contractors, or the religious stigmata approach. I don't know if you're familiar with the religious stigmata.
No, I'm just interested in the story. Go where you want to go with this. This is
there are lots of different ways I can approach it. So,
what's your favorite though? What do you name? Okay. They're all interesting. What's the hacker one? 'Cause I'm just a nerd. The nerd. That one sticks out.
I was married to the Chief Information Security Officer at HBO, and in 2011, this was after I had experienced the trauma at the birth, where during a hallucination kind of a thing where I saw a pulsing lotus flower in the third eye while I was meditating with yogic breathing and having an orgasmic experience where every contraction was identical to the pregnancy orgasms. And I was mishandled by a physician, and it was a traumatic experience for me because I couldn't stop thinking about it. It was like an hours-long orgasm with a mishandling, and it was just, it was unforgettable. It redefined everything for me. So trying to put my life back together after that was a huge challenge, and I stopped sleeping after about 5 months and developed a postpartum delusional disorder, where I thought there was a conspiracy to kill husbands on the roads of New Hampshire. And I was worried I was at the center of a conspiracy to harm my husband. And that blew my mind when I got so entangled in these wrong phone number calls coming from Republicans and different political leaders in New England. And I'd look at the phone, transcripts, and it would be from, I'd Google it, and it would be from either OmniPoint or political candidates, and they'd be asking for different names. And it was just really a hard journey to, realize that I did have mental illness, but with treatment, it went into remission. And then in 2011, when I was married to the Chief Information Security Officer at HBO, I thought my phone and computer were hacked. And bold text messages started talking to me, and it totally blew my mind. And a bedside lamp caught fire the last time I was with Josh, and it just completely, I got sick.
That's interesting. So like, that was a lot of information. So what is a lotus flower when you see that? What does that mean meditation wise? Like,
So it's the crown chakra.
mhm.
That's my understanding of it. I don't know enough about, Buddhism or, meditation or, Hindu religion to really understand the significance, except for it was the most beautiful visual imagery of my entire life. And it was shooting sparks of light and love. And it felt like the most beautiful, incredible, sensual, wonderful mother experience. And the lotus flower is a universal symbol of motherhood. I'm not sure if you're aware of that, but I've done a lot of research over the years just trying to figure out and understand my experience because it was so impactful to me personally. And there's a lot of ancient symbolism around lotus flowers and motherhood. So.
No, it's interesting. So what is what was the job title at HBO again? Like information, like what was that? Your husband worked at HBO. He did what now? Chief of Information, you said?
Yeah, and
What
then
does that mean?
eventually, so he was the information security head of HBO, and they got hacked by the Iranians in I think 2017 or something.
Oh, okay.
But I never told him about my experience. I kicked him out of the house because I was afraid that there was a conspiracy, and I thought my life depended on kind of separating. When I had the intervention, when all the files appeared on my computer and showed me beautiful pictures of motherhood, and then a picture of him like just kind of scowling at me, and it was with the bold text messages and everything else. I mean, it's all in the book.
That's interesting. Yeah. So you finished this book about 5 years ago, you said? Like November about 5 years ago?
2015.
Cool. You grew up in the Midwest also? Like.
Yeah, in Topeka. I graduated from Topeka High.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I'm in Missouri. That's crazy close.
Yeah.
It's interesting. So back to like, so basically, what was the stigma scandal more or less, or stigmatic scandal? I'm sorry.
So stigmata is like a religious stigmata, like the stigmatists were like people who were persecuted by some higher power. Like they'd have spots on their hands that would bleed, or you look at saints and they have this stigmata a lot of times associated with them, where whatever it is, it's a religious perspective. And my story, in one way of thinking of it, would be from a religious stigmata approach, would be thinking of it as being kind of a torturous experience, losing your mental health the way I did, with the wrong number calls and just continuously being kind of constant little reminders and interferences, like the bold text in the browser. And how I managed through that was using ciphers to use protective concepts and not doing anything, but writing everything down. I documented everything.
That's interesting. Or what would you describe mental illness to as somebody that like has never had it, like a listener that's never experienced this? How would you describe it?
Well, I have a presentation. I actually talk at a lot of CIT officer trainings, which are the crisis intervention team officers for local law enforcement. And I talk about mental illness. And for me, it looks like bokeh or lens refractions and auras. I see a lot of auras when I'm unwell. I also have a change in my thinking. and just become unwell, you know, and I experience things differently than the people next to me. So I don't know if that is a clear answer, but anything from I get tingling sensations to pins and needles to pressure to a tickle in my brain to a warmth under my thumb when I'm unwell.
Have you recovered from this? Are you still fighting it, or?
I take medicine every day to be well, and I've been in recovery or remission for a number of years. Whenever I go off medication, I get very sick. So.
No, it's interesting. What do they say this is? Or that you were dealing with, or whatever?
My dog is barking. He's going to bark until I feed him again. He's kind of elderly, so you'll have to forgive me while I go give him a cup of food here.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
Sorry about that.
No, you're good. I wouldn't want to wait for food either. I get it. I feel so. What do they say is the deal and stuff? What is it described as? Basically, your situation, more or less, with the biggest way of saying it.
Well, I've had mental illness for many years, and it started out, they called it postpartum depression, then postpartum delusional disorder. Some people referred to it postpartum psychosis. Others said, then when I got really sick, it was psychotic NOS when I was hospitalized. Then it was delusional disorder. Then it was intermittent psychosis, and eventually schizophrenia, and then schizoaffective disorder. When you don't sleep for 7 days, they add mania to that and call it schizoaffective. So I had an episode many years ago where I didn't sleep for 7 days.
What do you think caused this, to happen?
Well, the 7 days of no sleeping, I had fallen off my medication rather suddenly. And I think it was partially a medication withdrawal, partially just I got really sick and, went down a really deep rabbit hole.
Yeah, that's was there a certain thing. If this is too much information, tell me to just tell me fuck off. But I just don't want to be uncomfortable or anything. But do they tell you what triggered any of this? Like the whole thing of just like.
They did testing for environmental causes. They did testing for brain scans, looking for any sort of a cause for it. So I've been in therapy for years as well. And what happens sometimes with mental illness is a trauma can actually kind of undo your mind. Have you ever seen the movie Inside Out?
I don't think so.
It's a cartoon by Pixar that uses internal family systems theory, which is like the mind is made up of all these different, oops. Come here, honey. Sorry, my other dog.
No, you're good.
So internal family systems theory is a theory for mental health where when you have trauma, you can lose kind of parts of processing centers of the mind. And anyway, I got really sick and experienced psychosis, which can be a trauma response. I don't know if it's a genetic predisposition. My grandmother Grill, had some, she had a bad tooth that she believed the dentist healed her. And so my dad became a dentist. I'm a dental hygienist by training.
Okay, that's crazy. How many copies of this book have sold? Like, how many, is this a popular book or like?
That's a good question. Amazon tracks the numbers, but they seem to have shifted the number of sales over time. So I don't think it's accurate the way it tracks.
No, it's interesting. It's interesting. Did you do? Yeah. How does one? I like this. I like the cover. I like the story. This is like. It's kind of a. You have a very interesting story. I think. With and I think people should buy this book. Like honestly, it's
I wanted to ask, how did you find my story?
I just nerd out on stuff and like certain things in like Amazon especially. Like I personally like make movies and stuff on Amazon. So I was like looking. I just kind of skim through like what people are writing and publishing and stuff. And like my buddy writes books on Amazon. I haven't written anything, but I'm just into that. I like nerd out on it.
Yeah, I was wondering what your search query was, if you remember.
I don't. I just tear through stuff. I just tear like, especially when I'm looking for guests. I just tear through stuff and like I kind of just like find. So I think this book could be interesting to other people. I haven't had a lot of authors on. Like so, I think you have like a just like good way with words and like the cover looks good. It's just good presentation. I think like people would take like people seem like they take it seriously and people would also on my show probably click it and at least check it out. I think like
Yeah, well,
that's what I was thinking.
it's a different story because it's with the mental illness. I mean, which came first, the trauma, or was it predisposition, susceptibility? Was it interference and, some foreign power interfering with my life? That's my biggest fear, is that it wasn't just mental illness, that there was some truth to it.
Yeah, I almost worry about that too. If you see auras and stuff, like if you're able just to be connected to certain things that people can't see, but also I don't want to feed into that if it is a delusion either. And so it's like,
Yeah, I
that's why I
know,
didn't
right?
bring it up. Because I thought that when you said the aura thing, like they like certain people can see differently.
Yeah, and I don't know the answer to that. I take my medicine every day, and I text with my dad when I take it, and he tells me what day it is. I tell him I take my meds, and so I do a cognitive check on him, and he keeps me medication compliant. So we've got a pretty good system down.
Nice, that's awesome. Well, do you have any other plans for books in the future? Like, what are you gonna?
So I'm writing a book, How to Date After Diagnosis, which is kind of interesting if you're into, writing and you have a diagnosis. It's my personal formula for fun, especially when you're trying to heal from something as significant as what I've been working on healing from. So.
No, yeah, interesting. Like that'd be a good podcast too. Eventually, like maybe when that comes out, we'll do another one. Like
Yeah, well, part of it is actually on the thread for psych forums where I used to be a moderator.
Oh, okay. Where can people find that at?
Delusional Disorder thread.
Where can people find that at? Like
It's psychforums.com, and then it's Delusional Disorder, and my thread is therapeutic writing. It's written under Sunny G, and it's got a couple thousand views on it. I think like 34 or something. And so it's been growing over time. It has over 240 posts on it, and it's pretty much the whole story. Although in 2011, I think I deleted everything from 2008 to 2011.
Cool. That's like, I mean, not cool, you know what I mean? So, but interesting. How about that? So I'm not trying to like, I feel like it's your life. So it's like hard to talk about like in certain ways. It's not like a TV show or something. It's like your actual life. Like,
right. Well, I'm pretty open about it because, it was such a profound experience that I couldn't hide it,
Yeah, no, I get it. And like, you have a good way with words too. I hope people read this, maybe connect with it or something. I think that's a cool vibe. Did you say you had some questions for me in the beginning? You said
I did. I want to know, did you read my story?
No, I haven't yet. I'm going to though. I just skimmed the bio and it just sounded awesome. I immediately hit you up for the show. That's as far as I've done so far. It's like I'm going to read this for sure.
And I want to know, do you ever braid your facial hair?
I have a couple times, yeah.
Yeah, what's your favorite style when you do braid it?
I just do it randomly in summer. I'll just like when it was summer, I was just like doing it all random and stuff. I don't know.
That's cool. So I watched a couple of your shows, and I was wondering how you bring humor into your campaign. I was wondering, am I your attempt or is it the porn stars?
That's hilarious. No, I'm actually just this is just like an excuse to talk to anybody I want to. Like I can hear and kind of push their story, or like usually they have a product or something. It's just kind of like my way to get more information on something I read about that sounded cool. Like in this thing. That's funny. That's a funny question.
So, and then I have this one question, which I'm not really sure where I was going with it, but Republican Party is so pop culture versus status quo. I don't know if you can do anything with that comment.
With my comment?
The Republican Party, is it pop culture versus status quo?
Oh yeah, is it? Yeah, it was a question. Yeah, I think so. I think it is. I think now. Yeah, I think the Republican Party is a lot different than the Bush era Republican Party, and it's just like we kind of switched a little bit. And like now we're like pop culture and like punk rock. I think at this point.
I find that very interesting. I've always voted in the dominant party of the state in which I live.
Which state do you live in?
Well, I live in Kansas currently.
So that's Republican too, I guess. Is that?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
And I lived in New Hampshire. I lived in Massachusetts, and I've lived in New York. So I kind of flip flop every time I move because I always want to vote in the dominant primary.
Right. No, that makes sense. That's interesting.
Yeah. So I'm a romance writer, but the only contest I ever entered, I placed last in. So my How to Date After Diagnosis is going to be an interesting read. It's the Flame contest told me my hero was a cat and my heroine was unconvincingly innocent. So.
Yeah, that's interesting books. I think you're hitting on a lot of things that aren't really talked about, and I think that I think people that it would help would read it, and I think people that are just interested would read it, and then somewhere in between it'd be like both. Like people that it would help, it would also be interesting. I think and I just think it's interesting. That's an interesting subject, I think, and like you're hitting on some interesting things. I can see that doing very well for you, honestly. I could see something like that doing well if you like market it right and stuff. Like it's those are some cool ideas, like honestly, and like I know it's like your life, but it's a good kind of way to package it and tell the story. You know, as we're all just describing our experiences, and I think that's what good authors do. And I think it's like kind of like with the way you use words, like I mean, they just sound well. I mean, you're a good writer, so I think that.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. Thank you. My dog did not like the St. Louis Post-Dispatch interview. The entire interview, the dog was like barking.
That's hilarious. Did you listen to that interview? That's funny.
Yeah.
That's funny.
And if I could give one piece of advice to your viewership,
mm-hmm.
if they ever believe they are, for some reason, interfered with in some way, not to do anything but document.
Okay, that's interesting. And then send them to you or send them to me, or both.
Anybody. Just because, you know, if you can document, you know, being interfered with in any way is going to mess with a person's mental health.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Or it could be just the mental illness setting in. But if you can trust the people around you and not do anything and just document, it's the only way to stay safe in psychosis.
Yeah, there's a Nirvana quote in like one of their songs. Is like, just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they're not after you. It's like a Nirvana quote.
That's funny.
Yeah, that was like one of their songs, like their early songs. Well, okay, so yeah, if you want to find some of Sonny's work on Amazon, I have the link in the if you're listening to this on streaming services, the link is in the finally clicked. If you're on YouTube, you're seeing her book. Show that again. That's fucking cool. And like,
yeah, my daughter and I did that together. It's a stencil. And if you look really close, it kind of looks like Howard Stern in the center. Like right there.
It actually does. That's hilarious. That's funny. No, yeah. So buy Sonny's book. Like I said, the link is the book you just saw. If you're watching this on YouTube, the link is below. And if you're listening to this on your phone or device or something like that, like it's in the information. And is there anything else you want to throw out? Any kind of social media or anything before we get on?
You know, just if you're struggling with mental health, you know, there's lots of people to call, you know, and trust the people around you. for sure. That's probably my biggest piece of advice for folks out there who do struggle with mental health.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you coming on the show and taking the time to sit down with me and talk and stuff. Buy your book. Listen to this episode again. Start it over again. Now this is the end of it.